And I can't see anything else here lining up because of all the things that are landing upon the earth in the trumpets seem to parallel what's being spoken of in this book so directly. You've got a sort of an escalation of physicals descending upon the earth, and it steps up. So again, that star or wormwood could be interpreted as an angel. It obviously can't be a star, but I don't know. The more that I'm hearing you speak, Zen, and just tying it into the timeline of when the flood was, Jasher, some of Sitchin's work, which I don't aspire to, he's definitely an antichrist. Then you've got Exodus, and then you've got the book of Revelations, all the bullshit you can read about in Isaiah 24. What else is going to make the earth stagger and reel to and fro? You just track back with the timing, and I can't say any of this with 100% certainty, but again, it's definitely worth researching, and someone's going to have an explanation if this thing shows up in the sky. So I believe this to be divinely inspired, and when this thing does show up, everyone who's listening and has got a Bible is going to be able to preach and teach their way out for our Father.
What's so interesting to me about this Kolbrin Bible, and like I said, it's a huge collection of works. It's thicker than the King James Version of the Bible. Is that it talks about, again, the destruction of the First World Age, which I haven't found in many places at all, except for in several references in the Word, but nowhere else ever mentioned, and especially not in this particular amount of detail. And then all the different accounts. It's just interesting because the story of Noah and again the flood is in the Kolbrin Bible, and the deluge, and how everybody doubts that there was ever a worldwide flood, and yet it's recanted over and over in all the different mythologies of the world. But so that's why I wanted to share this with people. Is just not saying it's authentic or it's truth. Again, make no certainty of that in any way, but just that it's interesting reading, and I think people should at least hear about it or know about it, or at least get the chance to study it for themselves and to make their own determination on it one way or the other. I don't think it's right to judge whole collections of work and scriptures without even looking into them. It doesn't make sense to me, but for some that makes sense, but for me it doesn't. I want to know what it says before I make any determination on whether it has any relevance. Okay, but going in, this is the next part of the destroyer. The next part of where the destroyer is mentioned in the Kolbrin Bible, and what makes this interesting is it gives the account of the Exodus and Moses leading the Hebrew people, the slaves out of Egypt, but it gives it from an Egyptian perspective. So in this accounting, it talks about the Hebrew people as the slaves, and it talks about their God, and this is a really interesting account. I think you guys are going to like this, and so I extended the show for another 30 minutes just because I wanted to get this particular tale on this particular show. This one is called The Destroyer, Part 1, from the Great Skull, and this is from the Book of Manuscripts. Men forget the days of the destroyer. Only the wise know where it went and that it will return in its appointed hour. It raged across the heavens in its days of wrath, and this was its likeness. It was a billowing cloud of smoke enwrapped in a ruddy glow, not distinguishable in joint or limb. Its mouth was an abyss from which came flame, smoke, and hot cinders. When ages pass, certain laws operate upon the stars in the heavens. Their ways change. There is movement and recklessness. They are no longer constant, and a great light appears redly in the skies. When blood drops upon the earth, the destroyer will appear, and mountains will open and belch forth fire and ashes. Trees will be destroyed and all living things engulfed. Waters will be swallowed in land and seas will boil. The heavens will burn brightly and redly. There will be a copper hue over the face and followed by a day of darkness. A new moon will appear and break up and fall. The people will scatter in madness. They will hear the trumpet and battle cry of the destroyer and will seek refuge in the den in the earth. Terror will eat away their hearts and their courage will flow from them like water from a broken pitcher. They will be eaten up in the flames of wrath and consumed by the breath of the destroyer. Thus, in the days of the heavenly wrath which have gone, and thus it will be in the days of the doom when it comes again. The times of its coming and going are known unto the wise. These are the signs and times which shall precede the destroyer's return. 110 generations shall pass into the west, and nations will rise and fall. Men will fly in the air as birds and swim in the seas and fishes, and men will talk peace with one another, one with another. Hypocrisy and deceit shall have their day. Women will be as the men, and men as women. Passion will be a plaything of man. A nation of soothsayers shall rise and fall, and their tongue shall be the speech learned. A nation of lawgivers shall rule the earth and pass away into nothingness. One worship will pass into the four quarters of the earth, talking peace and bringing war. A nation of the seas will be greater than any other, but will be as an apple rotten at the core and will not endure. A nation of traitors will destroy men with wonders, and it shall have its day. Then shall the high strive with the low, and the north with the south, the east with the west, and the light with the darkness. Men shall be divided by their races, and the children will be born as strangers among them. Brother shall with brother. This from Matthew 24, and I'm not sure this is what I was talking about with the Egyptian pharaoh. It might go into that, but I'm going to continue reading. Women will become the common property of men and will no longer be held in regard and respect. Then men will be ill at ease in their hearts, and they will seek they know not what, and uncertainty and doubt will trouble them. They will possess great riches, but be poor in spirit. Then will the heavens tremble and the earth move. Men will quake in fear, and while terror walks with them, the heralds of doom will appear. They will come softly as thieves to the tombs. Men will know them for what they are. Men will be deceived. The hour of the destroyer is at hand, and in those days men will have the great book before them. Wisdom shall be revealed. The few will be gathered for the stand, because it is the hour of trial. The dauntless ones will survive, the stout-hearted will not go down to destruction. Great God of all ages, alike to all, who sets the trials of man, be merciful to our children in days of doom. Man must suffer to be great, but hasten not his progress unduly in the great winnowing. Be not too harsh on the lesser ones among men. Even the son of a thief has become your scribe. Okay, yeah, it is going to go into the part with the Pharaoh and how he chases down what are called the slaves in this particular book. But Alan, I want to get you to comment on that last part that I read. That it was kind of Matthew 24-ish, wasn't it?
Reading just these chapters, and I don't think I'd go as far as reading the entire book right now because I'm just too caught up in the Bible. But
of course,
yeah, it's to me, and not even to me. There is dozens and dozens and dozens of exact parallels with the day of the Lord. So I don't believe this book to be divinely inspired, but like Ben said, you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I've had extra biblical works open up the word for me. So it's just like something like First Enoch. It's like I could not have understood that paradigm, that reality, that dimension of prophecy or the spirit realm without that book. So some people consider it anti-biblical, but again, the Word of God is always a filter, so you just pull whatever through it, and if something opens up anything in the Word for you, I believe that we should be all over something like that. And the first Enoch speaks of stars changing their orders. And I don't have time to go into it right now, but there is another Exodus, a second Exodus. We go to a place called Bozrah. That's where the bride is supernaturally protected. There are going to be leaders. There are going to be deliverers. There is an end-time Pharaoh that you can read about. I believe it's in Ezekiel 28, 29, 30. He is a type of Leviathan, a great monster. So many things here just seem to really line up with the Word. And if people are still not seeing this, I mean, just store it on the shelf. But my question to you would be, why does the book of Revelations mention a great red dragon, which is a pyros, a great pyros dragon, which specifically means, it only means in the Greek, having the color of fire, and it's in the sky. So because you don't see something directly handed to you just on a silver platter, like a little paragraph to explain everything to you, the Word of God doesn't work that way. It's in idioms, it's in metaphors, it's in parables. It's a type of matrix. So when you're starting to move from book to book to book to book, and you're seeing things come out from all the books, sort of like collaboration or a mosaic. The truth is there. You're never ever going to find deep truths in the Word of God just by reading, little excerpts and thinking that you understand it. It's supernatural. It's multi-leveled, and it's even encrypted, so is that only those who the Lord, gives, and it's His disciples, it's the cross bearers that will understand the parables and the deep truths.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Alan. It's like a puzzle for me. In seeking the Word of the Lord and wanting to know truth, I can't just discount everything without even looking into it, or anything for that matter. And so I study everything, I read everything, but of course my foundation is in the Word, and you know that I'm a servant of Yahweh and Yahushua, Savior, Messiah, and the Old Testament, the Torah, the Commandments, the Ten Commandments. I fully give credence to the Word and use that as a foundation. But you're right. I've found so many other things in these extra biblical texts, or just even other books that have strengthened me in the Word, and broadened my understanding and my discernment of it. And so, continuing on, O sentinels of the universe who watch for the destroyer, how long will your coming vigil last? O mortal men who wait without understanding, where will you hide yourselves in the dread days of doom, when the heavens shall be torn apart and the skies rent in twain, in the days when children will turn gray-headed? This is the thing which will be seen. This is the terror your eyes will behold. This is the form of destruction that will rush upon you. There will be the great body of fire, the glowing head with mouths and eyes ever changing. Terrible teeth will be seen in formless mouths, and a fearful dark belly will glow redly from fires inside. Even the most stout-hearted man will tremble, and his bowels be loosened, for this is not a thing of understandable to men. It will be a vast, sky-spanning form, enwrapping earth and burning with many hues within. Wide open mouths, these will descend to sweep across the face of the land, engulfing all in its yawning jaws. The greatest warriors will charge against it in vain. The fangs will fall out, and lo, they are terror-inspiring things of cold, hardened water. Great boulders will be hurled down upon men, crushing them into red powder, as the great salt waters rise up in its train and roaring torrents pour towards the land. Even the heroes among mortal men will become with madness, as moths flying swiftly to their doom. In the burning flame, So will these men rush to their own destruction. The flames going before will devour all the works of men. The waters following will sweep away whatever remains. The dew of death will fall softly as gray carpet over the cleared land, and men will cry out in their madness, "Oh, whatever being there is, save us from this tall form of terror. Save us from the gray dew of death." Part 3. The dune shape called the destroyer in Egypt was seen in all the lands whereabouts. In color it was bright and fiery, in appearance changing and unstable. It twisted about itself like a coil, and fiery in appearance, changing and unstable, like water bubbling into a pool. From an underground supply, and all men agree, it was the most fearsome sight. It was not a great comet or a loosened star, being more like a fiery body of flame. Its movements on high were slow. Below it swirled in the manner of smoke, and it remained close to the sun, whose face it hid. There was a bloody redness about it, which changed as it passed along its course. It caused death and destruction in its rising and setting. It swept the earth with great cinder rain and caused many plagues, hunger, and other evils. It bit the skin of men and beasts until they became mottled with sores. The earth was troubled and shook. The hills and mountains moved and rocked. The dark, smoke-filled heavens bowed over earth, and a great howl came to the ears of men, borne to them upon the wings of the wind. It was the cry of the dark Lord, the master of dread. Thick clouds of fiery smoke passed before him, and there was an awful hail of hot stones and coals of fire. The dune-shaped thundered sharply in the heavens and shot out bright lightnings. The channels of water were turned back unto themselves, and when the land tilted, and great trees were tossed about and snapped like twigs, then a voice like 10,000 trumpets was heard over the wilderness, and before its burning breath the flames parted. The whole of the land moved, and mountains melted. The sky roared like 10,000 lions in agony, and bright arrows of blood sped back and forth across its face. Earth swelled up like bread upon the hearth. This was the aspect of the doom shape called the destroyer, when it appeared in days long gone by in the olden times. It is thus described in the old records, few of which remain. It is said that when it appears in the heaven above, earth splits open from the heat like a nut roasted before the fire. Then flames shoot up through the surface and leap about like fiery fumes upon black blood. The moisture inside the surface, the moisture in the land is all dried up in the pastures, and cultivated places are consumed in flames, and they and all the trees become white ash. The doom shape is like a circling ball of flame which scatters small fiery offspring in its train. It covers about a fifth part of the sky and sends writhing snake-like fingers down to the earth. Before the sky appears frightened, and it breaks up and scatters away. Midday is no brighter than night. It spawns a host of terrible things. These things said of the destroyer in the old records, read them with a solemn heart, knowing that the doom shape has its appointed time and will return.
And I can't see anything else here lining up because of all the things that are landing upon the earth in the trumpets. seem to parallel what's being spoken of in this book so directly. You've got a sort of an escalation of physicals descending upon the earth, and it steps up. So again, that star wormwood could be interpreted as an angel. It obviously can't be a star, but I don't know. The more that I'm hearing you speak, Zen, and
was just not saying it's authentic or it's truth. Again, make no certainty of that in any way, but just that it's interesting reading, and I think people should at least hear about it or know about it, or at least get the chance to study it for themselves and to make their own determination on it one way or the other. I don't think it's right to judge whole collections of work and scriptures without even looking into them. You know, it doesn't make sense. Several references in the Word, but nowhere else ever mentioned, and especially not in this particular amount of detail. And then all the different accounts. It's just interesting because, you know, the story of Noah and again the flood is in the Kolbrin Bible, and the deluge, and how, you know, everybody doubts that there was ever a worldwide flood, and yet it's recanted over and over in all the different mythologies of the world. But so that's why I wanted to share this with people.
So I believe this to be divinely inspired, and when this thing does show up, everyone who's listening and has got a Bible is going to be able to preach and teach their way out for our Father.
What's so interesting to me about this Kolbrin Bible, and like I said, it's a huge collection of works. It's thicker than the King James Version of the Bible. Is that it talks about, again, the destruction of the First World Age, which I haven't found in many places at all, except for in
just tying it into the timeline of when the flood was, Jasher, some of Sitchin's work, which I don't aspire to. He's definitely an antichrist. Then you've got Exodus, and then you've got the book of Revelations, all the pole shifts you can read about in Isaiah 24. What else is going to make the earth stagger and reel to and fro? You just track back with the timing, and you can't say any of this with 100% certainty, but again, it's definitely worth researching, and someone's going to have an explanation if this thing shows up in the sky.